Today, we're looking at one of the most baffling mysteries from the modern world of travel. It's got all the elements: a young woman, a massive state-of-the-art cruise ship, and a disappearance that, honestly, just doesn't make any sense.
And that really is the chilling question here, isn't it? I mean, think about it. A modern cruise ship is basically a floating city. There are cameras everywhere, thousands of people. So how does someone just vanish into thin air?
So let's talk about Rebecca Coriam. By all accounts, she was this cheerful, upbeat person from the UK who absolutely loved her job working with kids for Disney. But then, in the early hours of March 22nd, 2011, as the Disney Wonder sailed off the coast of Mexico, she was gone. And the timeline is, well, it's terrifyingly simple. One minute, she's sending a message to her parents, just a normal message telling them she'll call them the next day. A few hours later, she's seen on CCTV for the very last time. And then, silence. By 9 a.m., she misses her shift, the alarm goes up. She has vanished.
Okay, so what do we actually know about those final moments? Well, pretty much the entire investigation comes down to one single crucial piece of evidence, that final CCTV recording. And what the footage shows is, well, it's a huge contradiction. You see Rebecca in a crew lounge and she's on an internal ship phone and she looks visibly clearly distressed. A young man walks up, seems to ask her if she's okay, and you can see her mouth the words, "Yeah, fine." But her body language, her expression, it's screaming that she is not fine. And that's the last time she was ever seen.
But it gets even weirder. There's this one detail from that footage that's always stood out. Her friends and family pointed out that the clothes she's wearing, they look way too big for her, like several sizes too big, which has led people to wonder, were they even her clothes? And if not, why was she wearing them?
So, Rebecca's missing. Naturally, there's a search of the ship, the waters around it, but it didn't take long for an official explanation to start taking shape. And let's just say it felt a little too neat. Here's how these things work. The Disney Wonder is registered in the Bahamas, so the official investigation, it was handled by just one single detective from the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And get this, he spent only one day on board before concluding that she must have just accidentally fallen overboard. Disney came up with their own, more detailed scenario. They told her parents that they believed Rebecca was up by the crew pool when a freak rogue wave came out of nowhere and just washed her overboard. And the evidence they had to back this up? A single pair of flip-flops they found near the pool, which they said belonged to her. Okay, but here's where that whole story starts to completely unravel. As soon as journalists and, of course, Rebecca's family started digging a little deeper and asking some pretty basic questions, the picture that emerged was, well, it was completely different. So let's just break this down. The rogue wave theory versus reality. First off, the crew pool isn't just some exposed open deck. It's actually protected by these high steel walls. On top of that, investigators hired by the family later pulled the weather records for that night. And guess what? The seas were calm. A rogue wave just seems incredibly unlikely, to put it mildly. And those flip-flops? You know, the one piece of physical evidence Disney presented? Well, one of Rebecca's fellow crew members, who spoke anonymously, was totally clear about them. She said, no way. They weren't Rebecca's style, they were too big for her, she had never, ever seen her wear them. And this is the real kicker. Years later, the family's investigators got a look at those flip-flops, and they confirmed they had another crew member's name and cabin number written on them. So the single piece of evidence supporting the whole rogue wave story, it didn't even belong to Rebecca. So with that whole official story just completely falling apart, you have to start looking at much more disturbing possibilities. I mean, if it wasn't a freak accident, then what on earth happened to her? And these weren't just whispers. The questions started getting louder and reached all the way up to the UK government. You had a member of parliament, Chris Matheson, who just came right out and said he believes she was murdered. The former deputy prime minister said he thought she was thrown overboard. And on top of all that, her parents kept hearing rumors about some kind of intense love triangle, which, could absolutely explain why she was so upset on that phone call. Rebecca's story is tragic, but it's not just an isolated incident. What it really did was blow the lid off a much bigger, much more troubling issue, the way these kinds of incidents are handled out at sea. Think about this number for a second. 170. According to maritime safety advocates, that's roughly how many passengers and crew members have vanished from cruise ships just since the year 2000.
And what's really shocking is how many of these cases get almost no real, serious investigation. And a huge part of the problem comes down to this legal loophole called a flag of convenience. Basically, cruise lines register their massive ships in countries that have really lax regulations and low taxes. It's great for business, but when something terrible happens, well, these smaller countries often just don't have the resources to run a full-blown investigation. Sound familiar? That's exactly what we saw here. And the criticism got loud, and it got public. I mean, the UK's own Minister for Shipping at the time straight up accused Disney of being more interested in getting the ship back to sea than in investigating. That is a huge accusation coming from a top government official. And this really gets to the heart of the matter, the main accusation that still hangs over this case. Critics, lawyers, and even other crew members are convinced that Disney has more evidence. They say that the whole area around the crew pool was covered in CCTV cameras. The belief is that the footage of what really happened to Rebecca exists and that the company is covering it up to avoid a PR nightmare. So, after all this, where do things stand today? Well, on paper, legally, the case is closed. But in every other sense of the word, it is completely, frustratingly unsolved.
In 2015, about 4 years after she went missing, Rebecca's parents did settle a civil lawsuit they had filed against Disney. And with that, their long legal battle was over. But here's the thing about that settlement. Its terms mean we, the public, might never get any real answers. The financial details were never disclosed. And most importantly, the family had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That means they legally cannot talk about the case anymore. So we end up right back where we started, don't we? A young woman is gone. The official story is full of holes, and the one family who fought for answers is now silenced. It really makes you wonder, when a massive company's public image is at stake, what is the true price of corporate silence?